hills, the town, the valley, a fountain, birds. The hum of a motorcycle. Someone laughing. I've been pondering over the last few days what is hindering me, what is limiting me from getting clear on my goals and allowing me to obtain them. And it hit me that I lacked clarity on what exactly I wanted in specific areas of my life. For example, with health, my goal was to just get healthier and feel better. But when you think about that, that's very vague, and if you have vague goals, you're going to get vague results. And I realized that I choose to stay in a vague territory because it's easy. And so I started to ponder that for a while. And in my last video, I mentioned some of the key aspects of resistance. And I like to approach things from a direct experience, and through understanding that direct experience, I've found that it often relates to popular universal truths, which just means that people have been figuring out the same thing. Maybe I subconsciously knew certain things because I've heard them before. But for example, I mentioned in the last video that I'll notice aspects of laziness, resistance, self-doubt, distractions, things like that. And then they keep you from reaching your goals. They keep you from getting clarity on creating and keep you from being consistent. So I realized that those aspects of limitation and resistance are very similar to the Five Hindrances from Buddhism. And so the Five Hindrances are sensual desire, so the seeking of pleasure, wanting things to be very easy and comforting and comfortable. This can be social media, this can be junk food, this can be porn, masturbation, pleasure, just easy pleasure. It's not to say that sometimes you can't enjoy things that are pleasurable, but there's this default loop that a weak mind turns to, where anytime something starts to be physically or mentally or emotionally strenuous, the default is to just quickly trigger yourself to go and seek a pleasure. I noticed when I would try to build the muscle around working, deep work, focus, I would start to rack my brain and hit a certain point where something felt difficult, and without even registering that it was difficult, I just felt the urge to go and eat, or to masturbate, or to just do something that would get me off of that, I guess that threshold where I was about to evolve, but it felt hard, and so I'd just be like, oh. And so I would earn the right to go and pleasure some aspect of my senses. And so sensual desire, pleasure seeking, is a hindrance, but it feels like this gateway to winning, this gateway to success, because a pleasure is like a micro success. I'll find even now when I do work, and I've been able to work much more deeply and be less hindered by sensual desire than I used to. I can't remember the last time I masturbated, and I don't eat for pleasure's sake as often. And I can sustain a deep work session much longer. But even now, I'll find myself working, and then I'll open up my emails, or I'll just click a new tab, or like backtrack to a certain tab, and then I'll realize there was no use in that. It was just this default easy, like the easy way out kind of thing. The same exact algorithm as what I mentioned before. And then I've set like anti-triggers. So like when I go through that loop, a trigger sets off where I'm like, oh wait, what? And so I can X out of that tab or whatever and go back to being focused. And it's through that kind of like forced back on track process, like continually coming back to what you're focusing on. It's like in meditation, coming back to your breath, allowing that thought or desire to pass by and just keeping focused. Eventually you're building strength to have less of that as a distraction. The next of the 5 hindrances, number 2, is ill will. And like I mentioned in the last video, self-doubt, like frustration with yourself. I guess self-doubt goes with number 4, but frustration with yourself, anger, resentment, blame, just things that kind of feel like dark and like just the angry, like rough feeling. And the best way to counteract that is through like self-love practices and metta, loving kindness for everyone and everything, and compassion and patience and empathy. And the best way is to just sit and contemplate with that, being able to observe your thoughts and emotions and understand why you feel angry, and go in a deeper layer, and you realize it's not about what you think it is about. It's often always something deeper. Let me try to think of an example. One example I noticed in my past in business is there's people that have wronged me or given me some reason to be justified that I was the victim. And there's like this anger to solve it and get justice and be proven right and have some sort of retribution. And in my experience of living through that quite a few times, I've realized that it was always myself to blame. I got myself in that mess. I was just as much the antagonist in the situation as anyone else, and anyone that does something wrong, it's better to just observe it and allow it and, protect yourself, get out of that situation, and learn to recognize in the future those patterns and traits and avoid them, and stabilize your life and those around you, being more filtered. And that's the gift that those people are giving you. It's not that you need to fix them or prove that they were wrong. Generally, it's not worth it. You don't want to be someone that is constantly arguing and having legal, conflict and stuff like that. It's just not really worth it. Obviously, there's some degree of reality there, but generally, it's better to just move on. But I carried a lot of anger in that, and I would just fume and just shake and text like what I'm gonna do, or realize something I should have said. It's just all this anger fueled, and energy that didn't really get me anywhere. At the end of the day, it brought me the lesson of forgiveness, letting go. You don't need to forgive them directly. You can just move on and forgive and just radiate that love and confidence and acceptance just to how things were and what you are committing to avoid that in the future. And then there's other anger that comes up in my life where, like, noticing yourself get angry and annoyed at people. This is easy with family and people that you're in close proximity with. And you realize if you just let them do what bugs you, eventually it doesn't bug you, and you realize that you probably did that thing too. And that there's things you do that bug people, and they're forgiving of you and accepting of you. But yeah, the best antidote for the second hindrance of ill will is goodwill. And number 3 is laziness. And in Buddhism they say sloth and torpor, which I know sloth is like a slow, heavy animal. But I have no idea what sloth and torpor means. But laziness, just procrastination, avoidance, slow. It can be disguised as rest, but there's a difference. And there's times where I'll find myself needing to just unplug and I lose inspiration. And sometimes there's moments where you need to rest for longer stints of time. But, excuse me, it's spring here, pollen everywhere. But yeah, sometimes your weaker mind can take the opportunity of rest and turn it into a justification for not growing and not pushing the mind and body to grow and progress and uphold, sustain. So the best way to counteract laziness is to move your body and your mind and to be proactive and just start slow with small steps. I don't know what trail they're on because I've walked past that and I don't see the spot, but the next is restlessness. So that the traits of restlessness are anxiety, agitation, jumping around between ideas. I'll find myself doing this one a lot. I tend to lean more on the anxious side than depressed side. But I counteract this with kind of like in what I mentioned earlier, where you kind of bring yourself back and you have to kind of force it and just do it one step at a time. Just like my instinct or default is to just unplug and go seek pleasure and just go and like turn off from this strenuous focus and effort. But I say, okay, come back and let's strain our mind or body a little more, and let's understand why we're working to grow and expand and push ourselves, and let's just stay focused a little longer. And you'll find that you can always stay a little longer than you initially intend to, the more you do that. Meditation and just reducing the amount of agitators and stimulants. So less coffee. I know that like nicotine can be quite stimulating. Social media, the news, just moving towards slow form. Slow form in your day, slow form social media, slow form everything can kind of counteract that. And then number 5 is doubt. So doubt, self-doubt, pessimism, second-guessing, hesitation. And that happens a lot for me with this channel, for example. Just sort of hinders me from writing what the next video will be about, or pondering, just questioning it and doubting it. And yeah, you'll find that a lot of times these hindrances kind of support each other and stack around each other. It's generally not just one. Like self-doubt can lead to frustration, which can lead to anger, which can lead to pleasure-seeking or laziness, or anxiety, right? So they all kind of stack, and to unravel them, you have to just find those key antidotes and cultivate those while you limit the traits of the hindrance. And it's a journey that you have to walk yourself. You can't just watch a video or read some insights and completely upgrade, but you can start that process. And again, the best thing you can do is just sit with your breath and allow your thoughts to be what they are, and slowly build the ability to observe your thoughts and develop self-awareness. I saw some study, just metric, that said that you can't have self-awareness if you have a below 80 IQ. And I think everyone can develop some level of self-awareness if they really put their mind to it, but I can kind of see that. It's like when you argue with someone with low-level thinking, you're never going to change their mind and no one's going to win. There's no like winner. You think of politics, you have two sides, and everyone believes a certain subset of rules and laws and theories and kind of views, and then the other has the opposing, and they clash. And for me, it's this pendulum swing, and I'd like to think that in the future there's a leadership or a political group that can weigh and mediate between the two. I think that will trend eventually. For example, you have one side that agrees with, abortion, and one side that doesn't. And really, at the end of the day, if there is just these two opposing sides, you need to come into the middle, and you need to find a way to, check and balance each other and find some middle ground. But it's not easy, right? These topics are so emotionally charged and important, but at the end of the day, someone needs to bring things together, find middle ground. It's kind of funny that we as people, all we can do is vote for one person, in a sense, and then we have to just fuel energy towards what is right and wrong, and then we fight amongst each other. And then these people have their, tiers of consultants and managers and secretaries of all the different departments, and then you have to sort of just trust the few people that you're able to vote for and trust that your vote matters, and just sit there and wince and fight. It's funny. If all those people could come back and find themselves on a deeper layer, have a little more self-awareness, I think that we could come up with a better plan. But it seems like if we just lack that self-awareness and we just become so charged by things, just so consumed by distractions like the media and vices and stuff, then we just support this system that's not healthy, and it's just not natural. I'll create a page inside of Master OS for the 5 hindrances and the common traits of each hindrance and the antidotes and the common traits of each antidote. It's really effective because, like I said in the beginning, I started to understand these components and aspects just intuitively, based on like what I felt was coming through, and I was seeing why I couldn't get clear on my goals or why I was getting writer's block and whatnot. And it's, laziness, self-doubt, frustration, it's literally just the raw form of what gets consolidated with the 5 hindrances. And I really love that approach. I encourage everyone to do that, where you can sit and contemplate and gain insight to yourself and just write down words that come through and emotions and sort of see how patterns connect. When I do this, this happens. When I notice this thought, I had these 2 paths to choose, things like that. And that can start to lead you to understanding your own core frameworks. And then you can see how they relate to these long-standing teachings from, Buddhism, Stoicism, Taoism, different religions, different like business philosophies, things like that. And it's really cool to see how you, as this sovereign entity, can tap into the same universal truths that have come before you and cumulatively have developed. I think it's really empowering and proves that you're on the right path. Gonna do some meditation. Cross my legs. Sit up straight. My tongue is pressed on the top of my mouth. Stable, but no pressure. I can hear the animals. I can see length in my spine. I see a peach salmon hue in my eyelids, the sun coming through. I can see a gradient. I can feel my breath, my diaphragm. Sort of a swaying in my spine as I'm breathing up and down. hue is now yellow. I can feel my heartbeat. I can feel thoughts of my week and the plans. Just come back to the noises around me. I can hear a lizard or some animal moving through the brush behind me. Well, thank you for watching, and I wish you good luck in your discovery of how to unhinder. And again, I'll have the link for Mastery OS in the description. Inside of the skills and interests component, I'll have Buddhism, and inside of that I'll have the Five Hindrances. And you can also shortcut Command K or Command T and type in the Five Hindrances and it will pop up. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can email me. And thank you again. Have a great day.